Hi guys, Nick Jennison from Guitar Interactive GI+. You may be wondering what this wonderful instrument that I'm holding with a hole in it is. It is acoustic session today. So guys, it's Monday evening. We're doing the things that we do on Monday evenings. We just hang out and talk about the guitar. This includes guitars with big gaping holes in it because this stream is being brought to you by our friends at Fishman, who, among other things... start the track, who among other things make the pickups that I use. I use Fishman Fluents, huge fan of them, but they also make, obviously probably better known for their acoustic transducers and the acoustic line of pedals that they've just dropped, which has been kind of to send to me, which we're playing through today. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. But first of all, before we go any further, I want to thank you for coming on board with this stream. It is always a pleasure doing these lessons with you guys. I love the interaction that we get going on here. So if you have comments, you got things you want to talk about, things that are on your mind, drop the comments down below because we'd love to hear from you. We're going to be talking about how playing acoustic can improve your electric guitar playing, but also improve your musicality as a whole. So this is an interesting one for me because, as you guys know, I'm primarily an electric guitar player, just making sure that the mute switch I've got rigged up has worked. I think it has. Yeah, primarily an electric guitar player. I do like to play acoustic guitar quite a lot, though, and it's something that's started to happen for me more and more and more the more I work with GI. So you get guitars in for review. I was never sure what to do with acoustics, and I realised that was kind of a hole in my game and something I should definitely try and fix. But it's had some very positive impacts on my electric playing, and I'm going to share some of these revelations with you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can kind of improve your playing through the medium of acoustic as a practice tool, but also as kind of a tool for creating music. So anyway, a couple of bits of housekeeping before we go. First of all, if it's your first time tuning in, it's great having you on board. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're one of our returning, I keep saying cadre, our returning group of streamers who are with us every week, it is great to have you back. It's be very lonely without you, just be me screaming into a camera, and nobody wants to see that. Well, maybe you guys do because you're here. But anyway, if you are one of our returning viewers, hey, listen, it's great to have you back on board. A couple of ways you can help us keep these streams going, and you can help us keep the lights on, literally and metaphorically, that's the word, literally and metaphorically, because you'll notice that I bought some more lights because last week my lights didn't work, so I had to go and buy some. A couple of ways you can help us stay in lights that have about a year's worth of lifespan. You can give this video a thumbs up on whatever platform you're watching it on. You can share this with your guitar playing friends. You can do a few other things too. You can go to the URL down here which is guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI plus, where you'll find more guitar lessons like this, but in huge agonizing depth, right, on whatever subject you can possibly imagine. We cover everything from blues, jazz, with some great acoustic lessons from everything from like beginner stuff from Sam Bell through to Manelli Jamal's got some absolutely fantastic stuff in there. Don Alder has got some absolutely unbelievable advanced fingerstyle content for us, but we also have a ton of great electric lessons covering everything from blues, jazz, beginner stuff, advanced stuff, shred, fusion, technique, what else, theory, all manner of stuff. I've got a bunch of them as well. You can check that out in your own time. That's GI plus, link down there, logo up here, right? Also, want to remind you once again, this stream is being brought to you by our friends at Fishman. So you can go to the links in the comments where you'll find links to all of Fishman's social media. Go down there, give them a follow because they make some great stuff. They got some great artists. They're huge friends of GI. We get on really, really well with the guys on a personal level too, which is nice. So every time we go to the NAMM show, we get to hang out with Chris and with Larry and all the great guys over at Fishman who treat us very, very well. Really cool guys. I will say Larry Fishman had probably the biggest bottle of Woodford Reserve I've ever seen in my entire life, and he was very generous with it, but he's a great guy. They're all great guys. They make fantastic products, as I'm sure you will agree. I love the flumes, pickups, etc, etc. I'm going to show you these pedals in just a second, but before we do, a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to check in with our stream. We're going to see how everybody's getting on. You guys will notice that I am wearing the top knot of Civilization today because we're playing acoustics, and I'm also kind of like stripped of jewelry because I can't wear necklaces and stuff because it bangs on the body of the guitar. We'll get to that in a minute though. So anyway, listen, let's see who's in the house. PJ was the first one through the door at 5:32 p.m. That is probably a record. It says, hi Nick and all. Hey Marcin, tell me about your new guitar and Mr. Vi. Looking forward to hearing about this from Marcin because Marcin's got a great new guitar, and of course went to see Steve Vai because you'd be daft not to if you have the opportunity. Steve Vai is one of those guys, oh my god, just a special person in the guitar playing world. Was lucky enough to chat to him recently. Great guy, really, really cool. Cranker Tom says, hey everyone, sorry to miss out today. Greetings from Rome on my 30th wedding anniversary. For a 31st, I better grab a bite with my wife and catch the stream on YouTube. Fantastic. Well, happy anniversary, man. If you're watching this in the replay, thanks for taking the time to come in and drop us a comment. Hope you're having a great time in Rome. It's a beautiful city. Maybe you'll hook up with Sacred God Slayer while you're in Italy. Who knows? Have fun, Cranker Tom. Good vibes. I agree. Sacred God Slayer's in the house. Cranker Tom says, how do you enjoy being on my turf? Well, I've been to Rome. Rome is fabulous. Beautiful city. I love Italy. Great country. Great food. I think I was going to eat one type of food for the rest of my life. It'd be Italian food. Mike Seedorf is in the house. Says, hi Nick, everyone else. Mike, it's great to see you. Kim is in the house. Greetings to everybody. Where is Marcin? That's a good question. Maybe he's too busy playing his new guitar. Who knows? Timothy Appling is in the house. Good evening, Nick and everyone. I see today's subject is acoustic practice. Maybe I should grab one of my acoustic guitars for today. Well, if you haven't done so already, I would go grab one because it's acoustic stuff today. Mark Randall's in the house. Hey Nick, hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Doing great, man, having a good time. Really bogged down in making an album right now, so it's nice to step away from that and do a stream for you guys. So, Marcin is here. There we go, we'll like a bit of that. Hey everyone, a bit late. I practiced songs for band rehearsal, but everything is good now. The world will not end. Hey man, you got to get that practice done, right? If you don't learn the songs for rehearsal and your excuse is, but I was watching a live stream of some hairy guy playing an acoustic guitar, that will not wash. Your band comes first. You did the right thing. But Marcin's got a great new guitar. He's showed me on Instagram. If you guys have new guitars, by the way, or you've got gear you want to show off, show it to me on Instagram. Send me a message because, man, I would love to see what you guys are getting up to. So yeah, new PRS. We've also got a question here. Someone here also got a new effects modeling pedal last week. Also, I wanted an opinion about it. I think it's going to be my next big purchase. There's a lot of computation. I think that was a typo, but it's a good typo between the top 5 models. I'm going to start that up, Timothy, because we're going to come back to that in the Q&A session. I have some opinions. I think the model in question was a Helix LT, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Sacred Godslayer who got one, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. My memory's pretty good for this stuff, but I have been mistaken in the past. So anyway, who else is in the house? Keith MOF is here. Larry Warren is here. Who else do we have? Been using the 11 rack. Oh, we're talking about modelers again. You know, my friend Alan, if you like the 11 rack, you might like the head rush. My friend Alan uses head rush, and they have basically it's the same stuff from the 11 rack, and they've just dropped the head rush prime, which is supposed to be very good. So yeah, hey, who knows? Sorry, Marcin's talking about his new PRS. Says PJ, hello mate. PRS is just magical. Suddenly everything sounds better. Somehow notes coming out of the guitar sound fuller. You know, there's a reason I play them. That's all I'm saying. And it's not just because they look good, but they do look good. So I'm really over the moon for you, man. You've got a great new guitar there. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fabulous. We're going to steam through these as quickly as we can. Four Cornish is in the house. PJ is in the house. Saying hi, I know what you mean, regarding Steve Vai, regarding PRS as well, I imagine. Who else do we have? Let's just see if there's anybody we've missed. I think we've scooped up most people. Cowcat is here. Pushing tendons on the acoustic is normally usually my morning diet. Paracetamol sometimes joins the party. Well, you know, if you're pushing that hard, maybe that ain't it. Mark McNish is in the house. Says, hey everyone, hi Nick, good timing. I need to brush up my acoustic since I'll need to accompany myself in the near future. Oh, tell me more about that. That sounds really interesting. Paul Geary is here. I believe a returning streamer, although I don't think the drummer from Extreme. If you are, then hey, big fan of your band, man. I love the albums you were on best. Although we love the new stuff too, but even still. Rick Elliott says, didn't own an electric guitar until my 30s. The subtle nuances of fingerstyle guitar translate well into electric. Can't say the reverse is true or not. Jeff Beck might be the best example. I totally agree with that sentiment, but I do think the subtleties of playing it's an interesting one. I feel like it is a bit of a one-way street, and I feel like being a better acoustic guitar player makes you a better electric guitar player, but I don't think the opposite is true. I think being a better electric guitar player doesn't necessarily make you a great acoustic guitar player. There was a big, and I'm still not a great acoustic guitar player, but you know, like a better acoustic guitar player. But I do think it's an important step for most electric guitar players. Mustache Metal says, hey everyone, pure metal player here, but looking forward to some transferable acoustic practice tips. Man, you're going to get them. We got some good stuff for you. Tony McAnally, my friend Tony's in the house. Hey Tony, it's great to see you. Great melodic feel here, says Tony. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. It's one of the things that we can develop with acoustic guitar. We'll talk about that in a bit. Acoustic guitar is far better than clean sound-wise, clean guitar sound-wise, in my opinion. I kind of agree. I think there are times when a great clean guitar is the thing. But if it's a case of sitting down and playing either a clean guitar or playing an acoustic guitar, man, it's acoustic all the way for me. Hank Staines in the house says, love this idea. What strings you got? Should we use 9s, 10s to match the electric? I'm playing 11s on this guitar because, and that's quite light for acoustic, but with reasons. We'll get to that. So, anyway, let's crack on. So who else do we have? Frankie's in the house. Very, very, very quickly, let's see who else we have. Miguel is here. Don't want to miss anybody out. Steve Ford is here, and all that good stuff. So I want to take a quick second, by the way, guys, before we get into the meat of today's lesson, and show you these. Let's go to the close-up cam, right? So these guys right here, this is what I'm plugged into today. These are the new Fishman AFX pedals, right? And they've been kind enough to send them to us. So we got a first look at these at the NAMM show, which was really cool. And what you'll notice, I have all of these on. We're kind of doing a pretty simple setup today, but part of what we're doing, part of the I guess the magic of practicing with acoustic guitar is you've got to have a nice sound to play with. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about having a pleasant sound that plays well, but also taking advantage of the stuff that makes acoustic guitar kind of what it is. So I'll talk you quickly through the pedals and what we've got going on here. What we have, first of all, is the Pro EQ Mini. Now, what you'll notice here, I've got a little bit of a smiley face dialed in, but I also have this input trim dialed up. So the pickup on this guitar is not a Fishman pickup, which, you know, you guys know I'm a Fishman pickup kind of guy, but that's why we reach for these pedals, because, you know, Fishman pickups I can plug straight in. I love them. This one needed a little bit of work. So we've got a little bit of sparkly high end, a little bit of low, and a little bit of mids, but I also have this kind of, low mids. I also have a little bit of, quite a lot of input level dialed in, which is giving me just a tiny bit of compression, just a wee teeny tiny bit. It's not a compressor pedal per se, but it just gives me a little bit of kind of bumping up against the analog circuitry here, which again just shaves a little bit of that extra transient off. We've got a looper, really simple to use. We'll talk more about these. You can see full reviews of these in Guitar Interactive coming up. The reverb is the big one. Take a listen to this, right? I'm going to show you this. This is what I'm using as my mute. So here's the guitar with the reverb. Here is with it off. Pretty dry and dull, especially plugged in. Big deal with the reverb. Now, this guy here is the Pocket Blender. I'm actually just using this as a signal router at the minute. So I've got it set up as an A-B switch, and we don't have the B plugged in. So when I go here, guitar is muted. When we go here, guitar is on. Let's turn the reverb back on. So on and so forth. So that's what we're using in terms of signal processing. Great pedals, really super affordable. And the guys from Fishman have been kind enough to ship them to us, which is very, very cool. Just in time for the stream with this guitar, because this guitar is killer, but plays absolutely beautifully. But the electronics, I'd rather it had a Fishman system, because you guys know I'm a Fishman fanboy. Take that for what you will. So it's cool that I was able to EQ this sort of stuff. And also, to be honest, I love doing these acoustic streams, but it can be a pain in the neck getting the sound dialed up and all that sort of thing. So anyway, listen, that's enough talk about gear. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Before we get too far into that, I want to make sure you guys have your guitars with you, because we're going to be doing some practice stuff together. But first, let's talk a little bit about how you can use the acoustic guitar to improve your relationship with your standard guitar practice, and some of the things that the acoustic guitar will reveal about you that you maybe don't get from your electric guitar, even with your electric guitar set clean. So let's first of all talk about the clean sound for an electric guitar. Now, when you play an electric guitar clean, there's a big difference between playing clean and playing like actually clean, as in with a DI signal, which is the clean sound of your guitar's pickups. Your guitar's pickups on their own, your electric guitars tend to sound pretty dreadful. Let's not beat about the bush. Tend to sound pretty dreadful until you run them into some kind of signal processing, which might be an amplifier or a modeler or something like that. The reason for this is because the wee little signal that your electric guitar pickups put out, it's not a very exciting signal, and it's very, very excessively dynamic, let's say. So when we run into a clean amplifier, even the cleanest of clean amps, we're actually getting quite a lot of compression out of that system. Now, this is kind of cool because it makes everything easier to play, and it makes the notes sustain longer and means the transients don't take your head off. But it can somewhat divorce you from your relationship with the dynamics of your guitar, which is the first thing we're going to talk about today. So what I'm going to encourage you to do with this, we're going to do a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to throw some drums on. We'll get ourselves a little bit of a loop. Hopefully you guys can hear this okay. Let me know if you can hear the drums all right. Fingers crossed we can. Also, let me know if you can still hear the guitar okay, because I've been fiddling with those pedals and hopefully it's still okay. So what we're going to do here, we're going to begin by playing a simple figure on the G string, which is going to go G, sorry, it's going to go finger 1, finger 2, finger 3, finger 4. On your G string, dead easy, we're going to play 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it to begin with. Listen to that lovely reverb. Really nice. Makes my life easy. So what we're going to do with this, let's just highlight this very quickly as we go. We're going to use this to see what your relationship with dynamics is on your guitar. So with this in mind, let's start by accenting a different finger every time we go through this little exercise. So we're going to start by accenting finger 1. That should be easy enough. But we're just going to make sure that you can generate accents. The way we do that is we play a little bit harder, and we play the other notes a little bit softer. Dead easy, right? Let's try doing something a little bit like this, right? So we're going to start by accenting every time we play finger 1, and then we're going to leave finger 2, 3, and 4 at a normal volume. Nick Harrison's here. It's like he, I said the word acoustic, I sent it out into the world, and my acoustic guitar virtuoso friend appeared. Nick, it's great to see you. Nick's going to have some wisdom for us in the comments, I'm sure. So anyway, let's start by accenting finger number 1, and we're going to play something like this. Okay, or if it poses you any issues. Now, one thing you might notice is when you play these soft notes, you may notice that some of them just disappear. So let me know in the comments if you can do that okay. Accenting finger number 1, that should be fine, right? That's pretty easy. So what you might find again, though, is you might find that either you struggle to get the note loud enough, or you struggle to get the note loud enough and still have it sound nice, where maybe it turns into a clonk like that we don't want. That's a little more like it, where we have a bright and loud sounding note, but then we have some soft notes over here. What you might find is rather than the loud note being the problem, making the other note soft is the problem. Now that can be another issue entirely. Now this is all about your dynamic control. We're going to explore that a little bit further, but what you might find is that you play everything loud, and then making the other note soft is kind of an issue, but also making the note soft, you may find they get too soft and just vanish. Like that, because, you know, we lack the fine control to control the dynamics. But let me know if that's working out for you, because we're going to do some more. Let's move away from finger number 1, and this time let's move to finger number 2. So I'm just going to throw this up here real quick. So this time, same exercise, 1, 2, 3, 4, but we're going to accent finger number 2 every time we play it. So this should be on an up pick for now, if we're using a plectrum, which would encourage you to do. Hopefully that's working out for you. Let's keep going. Let's try accenting finger number 3. And okay, so we're going to go to finger number 3. Same deal. Let's go like this. Nice and slow first. Accent finger 3. Let's try accenting finger number 4 and make sure that works for us too. So let's go like this. We're going to play. Everyone able to create those differences in volume? There's a few of the things we're looking for here. We're looking for each of the accents to be the same volume, nice and smooth, but also all of the quiet notes to be an even volume too. Now, that's step number 1. Now, the reason this works so well on acoustic guitar is because when we play with our acoustic guitar, you would have noticed I said I was playing with a little bit of compression before. This pedal is not a compressor pedal. It's just an EQ pedal. But it does have some circuitry inside it that will start to gently clip. It's an analog pedal. It'll start to very gently clip when I dime the input gain. And that's just to take the transient off the top, if that makes sense. So if you guys know anything about mixing, it's a little bit like using a clipper on a snare drum, for example, or a limiter maybe on your master bus. Basically what it's doing is it's just making sure I'm still retaining my dynamic range, but I'm making sure the transient doesn't, you know, like go on people's phones, for example. If you're listening on a phone, you're listening on an iPad or whatever. So hopefully you guys are able to do this. The reason it works so well on the acoustic guitar is the acoustic guitar, when we plug it in, doesn't have the same amount of compression that you would have when you plug into a clean electric guitar. But here's another little bit of wisdom from Nick, which is absolutely true. On acoustic, the limited dynamic range means that all dynamics need to be controlled exaggeration to make sure the whole spectrum is accessible. For sure, totally agree. This is something we've talked about before, Nick and I. Basically, you know, the way Nick put it to me was that if you see a dynamic marking on acoustic guitar, you need to triple it. But it measures your ability to quickly adjust your dynamics as we go. Now, we're going to play with this a little bit further now that we've established that everyone's able to do it. By the way, if you've got questions, drop them down below. We'll be answering your questions a little bit later on, so make sure you drop your questions down in the comment section. Now, let's go, instead of our drums, to a backing track. We're going to be playing in A minor here, but I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge. A little bit of a challenge for you with this. We're going to continue with this dynamic control business for now. So we're going to pick a note in our A minor scale, and we're going to improvise freely, but every time we play this note, we're going to make sure we accent it. We're going to keep all the other notes the same, but we're going to accent one particular note. We're going to begin nice and easy, and we're going to accent A. So let me show you a scale that you can play if you want to play along with me. So if we begin in our A minor pentatonic scale, which would be right here on position number 5, that's fret 5, we could play 8-5, 8-5, 7-5, 7-5, 7-5, 8-5, etc. Nice and easy. Before we do anything, let's play that and let's accent all of the A notes, which are going to be fret 5 here, fret 7 on the D string, fret 5 on the low E string. Dead easy like this. Oops. Now, along with our backing track, with our acoustic guitars, because you can play along with backing tracks with acoustic guitars too, it's not entirely the purview of electric guitar, we are going to, we're going to play fairly freely. We'll do a little bit of back and forward, but we're going to play around with the idea of accenting all of these A notes. So if we just accent our A notes, we're going to keep all the other notes our even volume. Let's see what we get. We're going to use our Fleetwood Mac style backing track, which is available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel. I love playing over this one, especially with my acoustic. There's lots of space. It doesn't feel kind of out of place like playing a metal backing track, for example. So the right backing track with acoustic, it's a wonderful thing. Okay, so I accent just the A's. Your turn. I missed a few then, so you take a turn. It's harder than you think. And this is going to develop your awareness of intervals, of note recognition, but also your dynamic control. So this is where it gets a little more challenging. So accenting those A notes only. Accenting just A notes. You take a turn. Now it may feel a little bit unusual and it might feel a little bit kind of, I guess, alien, but don't worry about it. This is going to be more and more useful the further we go on. This is one of the cool tricks we can do when we use our acoustic guitar to practice. Okay, let's move to accenting just C notes. So they're going to be here, fret 5 on our G string, fret 8 on the high and low E strings, or if you're playing up and down the neck, anywhere you find a C, that's where we're going to accent. So I'll begin like this. I'm going to play. Take a turn accenting just C's. Just accenting our C notes. Alright, I'm going to take a turn. Obviously we can go all the way through the scale doing this, but I think you get the picture. We're probably going to leave that there. So let me know in the comments how you get on with that exercise, because that is very challenging. Now we've actually kind of skipped a step here because I wanted to get straight to making some music together, but PJ has absolutely hit the nail on the head where he says, "Pooh, that's a bit of a devil. Overpicking, too much emphasis on nout." Yep, you know what, dude? I can totally agree, right? Very, very difficult to do this in situ because we don't have the same level of kind of isolation that you get, let's call it, with an exercise. If you're doing it with your improv, you have to have your brain switched on and kind of do this when we just happen to stumble across a note. And it also kind of gives you, it challenges you to resist the urge to accent where you would just normally accent stuff. So we all have particular places that we tend to accent notes. We tend to maybe accent the start phrases, or we accent the highest note in a phrase, or the first note in a phrase, or the first note in a beat. This takes that away and forces you to accent at seemingly random times. But there's not really much of a pattern to it because you're improvising. So you have to be able to roll with the punches and go, ooh, time to accent that in a split second, kind of in the blink of an eye. So let me know in the comments how you guys got on with that. Got some more exercise coming for you, but before we do, just want to take a quick minute in case any of you are sat going, listen, this is great, but I don't know what to play over this stuff. Well, fear not, we've got a course for you, right? So this is available as part of GI Plus. This is Mastering Modes Part 1. I want to show you this real quick. When we come back, we're going to talk less about your relationship with dynamics, which we've talked about, we've touched upon. I feel like we've kind of hammered that to bed, but we're going to talk more about your relationship with things like fretting accuracy, hammer-ons and pull-offs, the meat and potatoes of your technical skills, let's say. But first, if you're wanting to know what notes you should play over this sort of backing track, well, this course is for you. This is Mastering Modes Part 1, available as part of your GI Plus membership. Modes. What are modes? How do I use them? When do I use them? Well, modes are one of the things that the pros use to add excitement and colour to their guitar parts, and there is no reason why you can't use them too. Now, for some reason, people, especially certain online guitar teachers, love to make modes seem complicated and scary, but I'm here to tell you they really, really aren't. And in fact, if you know the pentatonic scale, I can show you how to play modes with just 2 extra notes. In this course, I'll show you how to play killer sounding guitar solos using modes without any of the mystery. You'll learn how to play musical sounding solos all across the neck in any key, crucially without sounding like you're just running up and down scales. So, if you're ready to take this next step with me, click the link to find out more. So there you go, guys. That's a quick look at Mastering Modes Part 1. A lot of our viewers have got really great results from this course, right? I'm very proud of the course. I feel like it took a lot of putting together, but more than anything, it is the product of decades of kind of reading and thinking about this stuff, teaching it to people who maybe don't have a background in music theory, maybe don't have a background in modes, if you have a silly thing to say, but don't have a background in playing outside of the pentatonic scale, let's say. So there's a lot of ways you can skin that particular cat, let's say, and while I think very few of them are wrong, the order that you're presented this information in is really important, and I feel like this is a really good first step for guitar players. So anyway, my courses aside, let's crack on. So I want to take a quick moment before we go any further, just to remind you, by the way, this stream's being brought to you by our friends at Fishman, and we're playing through the Fishman. I'll show you this once again because they're really great. These Fishman are AFX pedals, which are acoustic guitar pedals, basically. They're pedals designed exclusively for acoustic guitar. You can use them on other stuff too, but they sound great. Fishman have been kind enough to send them to us, which is very, very cool. That's the reason my guitar sounds like this. And not this. Fine, but pretty dry. Even without the reverb, with just the preamp on, it sounds like this. With the reverb on, it's just better. Now, I'm going to leave the reverb on for our next segment, but you may want to turn it off if you're playing the reverb. By the way, let me know in the comments if any of you are playing your acoustic guitar plugged in. Do you guys tend to plug your acoustic guitars in outside of gig environments? Don't know about you, but whenever I play my acoustic guitar, I always like to plug it in. Now, this is something my friend Connor Thomas turned me on to, because he plays fabulous acoustic guitar player, but he plays with an amp quite a lot, and I was kind of mystified as to why you would ever want to do that. Like, why? The guitar is loud enough. And he's like, no, you don't understand, man. Like, something happens when the acoustic guitar is plugged in, and it's not so much a dynamic thing, but it's like a feedback thing. It makes it behave differently. If you've ever seen Tommy Emmanuel play, he often has an amp on stage, and he'll almost kind of have the amp on the verge of feedback. It sounds really cool. It's a really interesting thing. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you're plugging your acoustic guitar in. I think you should, right? Even though it's a mysterious and bizarre thing, I'm playing Stairway to Heaven, which I shouldn't do. So anyway, let's get on to some slightly more technique-heavy stuff. So we've established that the acoustic guitar is great for revealing your relationship with dynamics, but what it's also great for is it's a bit of a microscope. Steve McD says, mine sounds worse plugged in. Maybe you need some of these pedals, man, because, you know, hey, there are things that you can do to make an acoustic guitar sound fantastic plugged in. So, you know, maybe these will help. And they're very affordable. So, you know, not just to shill the pedals for you guys, but I do actually think they're great, you know. I mean, you've heard what difference it makes to my tone. I think they're a really cool idea. And we love pedals. Who doesn't love pedals? Anyway, so pedals aside, so let's talk a little bit more about technique, more about the way an acoustic guitar can reveal some flaws in your technique, maybe some issues that you didn't know you had. So I once had a wise person say to me that if you can't do something on a Strat, you probably can't really do it. Now, I'm going to extrapolate that a little bit further, and outside of the most extreme examples of you know, technical feats of wizardry, if you can't do something on an acoustic guitar, you probably can't do it as well as you think you can. And we're going to use the example of legato for this. Stifling a cough there. I'm very dry for some reason. So yeah, we're going to use the example of legato. Now, legato is a challenge for most guitar players on most guitars, but it's especially challenging on the acoustic guitar when we try and play some electric style legato passages. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to throw that backtrack back on because the backtrack's really nice. But if we try and play, now you would have noticed that fall apart in the middle there when I came across this tricky little movement. Now, this is revelatory for a variety of reasons, because there's all sorts of stuff that you can get away with on an electric that you can't get away with on an acoustic guitar, because it will tell you, it will let you know if something hasn't gone well. So, there you go, Daryl Queen with the wisdom. Here we go. Says Joe Bonamassa said he didn't consider a part ready to be played until he could do it on acoustic first. Joe Bonamassa is wise. Now, there are some things that you wouldn't expect to do in an acoustic. So, for example, like large David Gilmour style bends. If you have 12s on your acoustic guitar, you're probably not doing a whole lot of that, to be honest. But outside of that sort of thing, for things like legato, for picking, for slides and all that sort of good stuff, the acoustic guitar can be very revealing for this sort of stuff. Very revealing. Nick Harrison says here as well, says different guitars are essentially different kinds of and levels of technical forgiveness. For sure. Now, this is not to say that the electric guitar is the guitar in easy mode, because it comes with its own challenges. And you'll see a lot of guys who are great acoustic guitar players who'll turn their attention to playing a distorted electric guitar and won't know what to do with it, because this instrument is out of control. Why are all the strings wanting to get involved with each other? There are definitely different challenges for each, but the acoustic guitar is great for revealing how clean your technique is with this stuff, because some of the things you can get away with in an electric guitar, especially with legato, let's go to the close-up cam and show you. You can get away with slightly missing the tip of the finger on the string. You can get away with a slightly more flat-fingered fretting position and have it work on the electric. You can get away with having your finger kind of like roll slightly over the fret and get away with it. You can get away with a slightly buzzy fretting setting position on the electric and get away with it because we have compression. You can get away with uncontrolled dynamics, which can work in both directions. It can work in the direction of things being too quiet, or it can be too loud. As we use things like tension to generate sound when we should be using other things. We should be using our brush technique and our clean fretting technique that we've talked about in the past. So let's do some stuff with our drum loop and with our acoustic guitar and see what we can conjure, see what we can reveal about ourselves. So we're going to go back to the drums, go back to the close-up cam. We're going to be playing some legato stuff, and let's see what we can do to make ourselves feel bad about our own guitar playing. So let's start by taking a simple scale, right? We're going to go like this. We're going to play the G major scale, which is everyone's favorite. It's going to be 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, then 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7. Oh, I've run out of drums. And then again, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. Once again, it's a stretchy shape. Fingers 1, 2, 4, then up a fret for fingers 1, 3, 4. Now let's begin by playing this with exclusively hammer-ons, right? So let's try going something like this. Let's go. We're going to pick the start of every string. For now, we're going to get rid of that in a second. Now what I want to see if we can do is I want to see if we're on our acoustic guitar, we can get our pick and our legato to be about the same volume. Now something that tends to happen with, because the dynamics are so forgiving on an electric guitar, we tend to pick very hard and then hammer on a little less hard because we can get away with it. Or we tend to hammer on like really, really, really hard because we can't hear that it's louder because the compression is kind of getting us. So we're going to see if we can even this out with our acoustic guitar. So let's go something like this. So starting off on our low string, we're going to play. Now I want to know from you if there are any big differences between fingers and any big differences between strings. For example, up here, it can be more challenging to play those slow hammer-ons on the high E string because the energy of the string dissipates a little more quickly. So let's go one more time. Now what I'm noticing in my own technique is that my fourth finger is a lot louder than my second or my third finger. So I'm going to try that again. And also that I'm picking maybe a little too hard. Let's try doing it again, but this time let's try doing it with no pick. So we're going to go like this. Let's see if we can actually do this. And let's see what happens when we play these hammer-ons from nowhere. Now my instinct there was to really slam my first finger down to get those first notes, which is something I would do on an electric guitar to make sure the note comes out. But here, it's creating noise. It's not a lot of fun, right? So if I go like this, that's a little better. Slightly missed the note there. But I'm also having a little trade-off between where my first finger lands in terms of muting, but also getting a nice, clean, even note. Hopefully you can see how revealing this is, right? How revealing this is for your legato technique. Let's speed it up a little bit and let's see if we can do it a little faster. Now, legato is an interesting beast because sometimes faster is not always harder, especially when we don't have a lot of sustain, a lot of compression. Because here, if we play, we don't need to impart too much energy into the string with each hammer-on because, well, the string's already retaining a lot of energy from being picked. So like this. That is actually a little easier than this. Now, let's try it again, but let's just try it real fast. Let's go. Just to see how it feels. If it's nice and clean, let's try it without any picking. that's a little harder, and muting the strings with my right hand. Now these are all things that would maybe go unnoticed in my electric guitar playing, my electric guitar practice, but the acoustic guitar really brings this stuff to the forefront. Now, what's quite cool about this is it gives me an opportunity to solve this problem. It gives me the opportunity to solve this mechanical problem, let's say, which is, we know how skill learning works. It's the opportunity, it's solving problems that are quite close to problems you've already solved. It gives you an opportunity to reinforce those pathways that we're trying to develop. But here's another one. We haven't talked about pull-offs yet, so let's see what goes on with those, right? So same deal. Let's start with our G major scale, but this time we're going to play in reverse, starting on the 4th, which is C. So I guess you can consider it C Lydian. Like that. So we get this. Now here's an interesting thing. What I'm noticing is that my pull-offs are actually a little louder than my picking notes. Still plucking there. Now again, this is probably more difficult at slower speed than it is at faster speed. So if I play like this, it's probably easier to keep that clean. Again, you know, a few notes kind of falling off there, but this is all kind of part of the process. So what I'm going to encourage you guys to do with this is I'm going to encourage you, if you're not doing so already, as part of your guitar practice, specifically part of your electric guitar practice, is to grab your acoustic guitar, especially when it's time for some technical practice. Grab your acoustic guitar and try doing your technique practice on there. And then when it's time to do some musical practice, you then have the option to switch to your electric guitar if you want, or if you're really feeling the acoustic, you can stick with that, right? So another example of this might be when we talk about playing musical ideas. The acoustic kind of robs you of some of the electric guitar isms, because we can't really play those big bendy phrases that I love to play. Nope, that's not going to happen. That would have been a tone and a half bend on my electric, but that's not going to happen. And these are not crazy heavy strings. These are 11s, and the action's quite low. Let me kind of measure it for you guys. So, yeah, it's probably about 1.5 mil at the 12th fret on this side, and then maybe a sniff over, maybe 1.8 on this side. So it's quite a well set up guitar. But even still, you know, if you have a practice guitar, and on the word practice guitar, I kicked myself out of the stream. What are the chances? But yeah, you can have a practice guitar that isn't your main acoustic, and you can have it set up to play well, and it'll still give you all of these dynamic challenges, and it'll still rob you of all these kind of guitarisms that we're talking about. So, for example, if I were to play something like this is our backing track once again, I can't play all the phrases that I normally play on my electric. The shreddy stuff, which I should be able to play, but I can't do any of the bendy, sustainy, vibrato-y stuff. I can't do pitched harmonics. What I can do is I can play little chord clusters like this. Which is really nice. It gives me some excuses to play lines, rather forced me to play lines that I wouldn't otherwise play. So even doing your musical practice in the acoustic guitar is a really great shout. Daryl Queen says that's exactly why I practice jazz on acoustic. It forces me out of the bendy licks that I default to that aren't part of bop language. This is why I can't wash as a jazz player, because the blues thing is too entrenched in me. And I keep doing it. And I don't speak the language. I understand the... I understand the ability to, you know, what am I trying to say? I understand the building blocks of it, so I can play over changes. I just don't sound like a jazz player when I do it. I don't have the accent, so to speak. But anyway, listen, if you got any final questions, drop them down below. We're going to take a quick break once again. When we come back, we'll be answering your questions live on stream. Don't forget, by the way, make sure you go and check out the social links for our friends at Fishman, who've been kind enough to sponsor this stream and send us these lovely pedals that we're playing through today. It's making my job pretty easy. The guitar plays really, really nice. Again, the pickup is not a Fishman pickup. I kind of wish it was, because I like the way Fishman pickups sound, but the pickups are available. But even still, you know, having these nice kind of pedals down here, it's helped me kind of sculpt things, help keep things under control, etc, etc, etc. Anyway, listen, if you're interested in developing your technical skill a little bit further, let's go completely off the deep end and talk about picking strategies, which is where you can go to develop some absolutely ripping picking lines. I'm going to show you this, and when we come back, we can talk a little bit more about your questions. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments down below. We'll be addressing those as soon as we return. But for the time being, check this out. This is Picking Strategies Part 1. Does your picking feel uncoordinated and sometimes you miss notes or fluff transitions from string to string, maybe a little bit like this? When in reality what you want is smooth and easy and transparent feeling picking, a bit like this. Or maybe you've been sold on the idea that there's one specific way that you have to pick on the guitar and everything else is wrong, but that particular cookie cutter approach just doesn't work for you. It feels unnatural. It almost feels like you're fighting your own body to try and make it work. Well, Picking Strategies Part 1 is the course for you. In this course, we explore the many different ways that you can form a full and complete and comprehensive picking approach by examining the various strategies used by some of the greatest pickers of all time. And there are a whole bunch of strategies out there, and I guarantee there is one that is going to work for your preferred picking mechanics, the way you prefer to stand or sit with the guitar, the type of guitar you play, the type of music you play. There is a strategy for you. We're going to explore all of them, and I'm going to show you how you can take a single solo study and play every line within it using all of the 6 picking strategies that we look at in this course. And of course, this entire course is available as part of your GI Plus membership. So if you're not signed up already, what better excuse do you need to sign up today? So there you go, guys. That's been a look at Picking Strategies Part 1, available as part of your GI Plus membership. So listen, we got some great questions come in. Let's answer them. So we're going to quickly start with this one up here. We're going to go way back to the start of the stream where Timothy Appling was asking about modelers, let's say. So for my money, okay, based on personal experience, if cost is not an issue, I would go quad cortex, purely because one of the things that I'm using a modeler for is I'm using it as a way to conveniently collect my amps and carry them around in my pocket. Now a Kemper can do this, but what a Kemper can't do is it can't load multiple amp profiles into a single preset. So what I can do is I can have all the different channels on my Kraken, on my Super Sheriff, on my Copper. I can capture all of those and I can load them as blocks in my Cortex, which basically gives me about the same sound as the amp that I'm playing through most of the time. It feels very similar. I use the same IRs, so whether I'm playing in my studio, whether I'm playing out with my in-ears, it feels about the same. However, they are quite expensive, so if you were looking for a good solution on a budget, I think it's very hard to go wrong with either the one of the Line 6 Stomp products, so like the Stomp XL is a really good shout. Very, very affordable. You can get like 4 of them for the price of a Cortex, or even the Helix LT if you want a bigger. Helix still sounds great, right? It's not a bad sounding unit by any stretch of the imagination. It sounds fantastic. Another option might be the smaller head rush, because you've said that you're already an 11 rack user, so if you're familiar with that and you like the tones you're getting out of that, yeah, head rush all the way. For me personally, I think one of the best things that you can do is get some third-party IRs and load those into your modeler. We'll maybe do a little bit about modeling at some point. We won't do that in the next couple of weeks, but maybe one day we'll do something about getting a better tone out of your modeler. Because one of the big deals for me is, it's one of the little tricks that I picked up. I don't high pass. Sorry, I do high pass. I don't low pass my IRs. I leave the high end unfettered. I don't like that feeling of airlessness you get when you cut down to like 8K. I don't think that's really what a guitar speaker sounds like. The guitar speaker doesn't produce anything above 8K, but there are some harmonics that happen up there after the fact, because the speaker has a bit of distortion within it, so I like to leave those harmonics intact. What I'll do instead is I do fine notch cuts, and there's normally one somewhere around 4K-ish, and normally somewhere one around 5K-ish, and depending upon what I'm playing through, I'll sweep around and find the harsh frequencies that you would normally try and kill with a high cut and just notch them out, but then leave the high end kind of extended. I feel like it feels better to play, personally. Also, something I like to do is I'll always use a little bit of very short stereo room reverb or like early reflections. I feel like those things can really go a long way to making your modeler sound better. That's not really the subject of today's stream, but I feel like, you know, I feel like it's definitely something worth talking about. So yeah, that would be my thoughts on modeling. So there was some talk about, here's a good question from JTB, right? What's the best, most effective way to hold the pick? Now this is very much a personal preference thing, but what I would suggest is, unless you have something to prove otherwise, I would do this. I would take your thumb and your index finger, I would put the pick on the side of your index finger, and then I would put my thumb on top in a loose grip, whatever feels most comfortable. So for me, let me show you there real quick, it ends up looking a little bit like this. Now what you'll notice is that this finger bone is following the tip of the pick, but the actual tip of my finger is not, right? So some people advise using the tip of the finger to guide the pick. You can do it like that. I don't hold my pick like that. I hold my pick a little bit more curled in, just personally, but it's between the side of the index finger and the thumb. So I'm not using this grip where it's like between the pad of the index finger and the thumb. I'm using more like this grip where it's between the kind of the corner of my finger and the thumb. Hopefully that makes sense. One of my lights has gone off. Again, it's a new light. I mustn't have charged them properly, but never mind. That's the way I do that. Now, some people do just fine, perfectly well with a 3-finger grip or with all sorts of weird and wonderful grips, but without any more information, I would start there. And in terms of aligning the fingers, I would do whatever feels comfortable and feels relaxed, but enables you to hold onto the pick without dropping it and without it turning around in the hand. They're kind of the criteria that I would use personally. So yeah, good questions, man. So we got some questions on acoustic guitar setup. So Steve Ford's saying a high action will make fretting the notes harder. It absolutely will. I don't think you have to have a high action on an acoustic guitar. I think a lot of acoustics ship with high action because people in shops will grab a G chord and bash, and if there is even the slightest bit of rattle, they'll go, oh no, this guitar is bad, when in reality what's bad is the person playing its command of dynamics, right? So we can all bash an acoustic guitar so loud that it kind of, you know, what's the word? It tops out and it kind of, you get to the top end of its dynamic range and it starts to sound bad and it starts to rattle, right? If you're a large-sized human, this is particularly easy, but you have to gain control over those, and by controlling your dynamics, you afford yourself the ability to have a slightly lower action, even when you're strumming. Another solution to this, if you don't want that rattle, is use a lighter pick for strumming. But I think having a lighter action on your acoustic guitar is a good thing to a point. It shouldn't really rattle at anything other than the most extreme of kind of like dynamic conditions where you're really laying into the thing. So anyway, that's a setup thing. Daryl Queen's asking, any cue suggestions for getting a better plugged in acoustic tone out of the acoustic, something less quacky? Sure. I feel like all of the issues we have with plugged in acoustic guitars tend to be in the mid-range, but the answer to this is not to do a broad mid-range cut, because if you cut your mid-range out entirely, it can sound a bit cack. And you end up with something that's a little bit like Lars Ulrich's kick drum, only with notes. It's not a bad thing. So if you're doing a kick drum, it's pretty cool. I'm doing a metal album right now, so that kick drum is kind of on my mind. But we don't want that. We don't want to do huge, great scoops. Rather, what we want to do is we want to go looking for the certain frequencies that give us problems. And for me, they kind of exist in a few different areas. There's what I might consider to be, with plugged in tone, what I might consider to be quack, which is the first thing you're talking about. Quack for me is normally between 1 and 2K, and I'll go looking for this by playing quite hard. Maybe on the G string. I like to do it on the wound string because that's where it tends to be pronounced. And I'll search around and I'll find where that quack is and I'll take a little notch out. The other one is honk, which is kind of normally around 500 to 700. I feel like I need to sometimes notch a little bit of that out. Now that's where I'll be a little more broad, a little more generous with the cut. And occasionally you'll get some mud around 250, give or take. But these are not absolute numbers. Don't go, okay, 500, 1K, 2K. It's in those areas, so it's a range. So you'll need to go looking for it. But yeah, small notches are your friend with this stuff. I would suggest notching it before you hit a compressor as well, because if that quack is the loudest part of the signal, that's the thing that's going to trigger the compressor, and it's going to kind of smear the sound in a very unpleasant way. Not something we want. So anyway, we've got some more questions coming in real quick. Just want to highlight some of these very, very quickly while we have time, or some comments as well. What else do we have? Fractal is best, says Miguel. You know what it is? There are a lot of Fractal fans out there. I never really bonded with the Fractal thing, but I love the way they sound. There are a lot of guys getting really great sounds out of it, for sure. Okay, what do you do when a friend hands you acoustic to try and the strings are so tight you need Arnie strength to fret a chord and the action is higher than the Burj Khalifa? Play slide. That's all I'm going to say. Have a slide in your hand, in your back pocket, just in case. Or, strum some chords and go, yeah, it sounds great, man. Listen, yeah, I got to be somewhere and make your excuses and leave. I've done a few of these where there's a lesson out there somewhere, and I won't tell you what lesson it is. But it was a quite a technically involved lesson, and it was a sponsored lesson by one brand, and then for whatever reason that brand decided not to take the lesson out, and we ended up going with a different brand who wanted to sponsor the lesson. They're like, well, look, we'll take it, we'd love to have the lesson, send us a guitar, and this guitar was absolutely unplayable. So I'm there and I'm going, okay, so I've got to do this really technical lesson on this unplayable guitar. Help. I think it pays to be able to play something on most guitars. I realize there are exceptions to this. But yeah, hey, I don't know what to say, man. I would play Wonderwall and get out of there. Actually, to be fair, if you have a capo, that's quite a good way to alleviate some action, at least if the nut is very high. So you can throw a capo on. At the very least, it's going to start holding some strings down. But yeah, I feel for you, man. Not ideal. Open position is your friend. Anyway, so there we go. Use it as a boat, or yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree. Anyway, so we got a few more questions. We could go deep in this, but listen, guys. Oh yeah, here we go. Do you know any Alex Skolnick solos? None that I can play on acoustic, let me tell you. But Alex Skolnick is the man. Great guitar player, right? Very, very fine guitar player. And I will also say a great username you have there, Beerhounds Beer Reviews. We like that a lot, right? So anyway, listen, guys, thank you so much. My name's Nick Jennison with Guitar Interactive. We've run clean out of time once again. I want to remind you this session has been brought to you by our friends at Fishman, who were kind enough to give us a loan of these fantastic pedals that you've been listening to all the way through this stream. They've sounded great. They've made my guitar sound like this. Apart from the clams and the missed notes, that was me. I made them sound like that. Instead of sound like this. Turn it back on. Loads of fun. I'm going to play a little bit more, but I will bid you adieu. We're going to see you guys again, same time next week. We'll be doing some more acoustic content because, you know, it's something we do fairly regularly, but we don't do enough of. So more acoustic stuff is coming. If you want to take this opportunity to go and get your acoustic guitar set up for next week, hey, maybe this is your sign, this is your signal to go and take your acoustic guitar playing a little more seriously. You want some pedals? Go check out the Fishman AFX series. They're killer. Really, really great. In the meantime, my name's Nick Jennison. See you next week. Sit and play this track all day. It's available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel. You know where to go to get it. My name's Nick Jennison. This stream's been brought to you by Fishman. I will see you guys next week. My name's Nick Jennison, and it's a pleasure to introduce to you GI Plus, the brand new lesson platform brought to you by Guitar Interactive. We've assembled a team of the best players and educators in the world to bring you exclusive lessons covering everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about sweep picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length exclusive country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from Fusion Maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful? Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Or perhaps you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 60 feature-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. You get all this along with exclusive live webinars, free backing tracks, competitions, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for GI Plus today.